We will never have our daughter back, but at least justice has been done.
100% faith in the legal system. And I believe they did an excellent job, and I believe Kira would be happy. And unfortunately, she's not here, but at least she's not walking around.
In 2013, a lady named Kira Steger disappeared from her job at a store in Minnesota. Her friends at work got worried when she didn't come to work and they couldn't talk to her. Kira Steger was a special person who was born on November 19, 1982, in a place called Des Plaines, Illinois. Her mom and dad, Marcy and Jay Steger, loved her very much. They said she was full of energy, always tried her best, and was really nice to everyone she met. Kira worked at 2 different stores in the Mall of America, Wet Seal and Delia's. She had really good friends at both places who were like her family. Kira was really good at finding out what people were good at, even if they didn't know it themselves. She was really excited and had big dreams for her future, which she thought would be really good and peaceful. But sadly, all her dreams were broken when Kira went missing in a strange way. In 2013, Kira was happy at work and her friends noticed it. She was excited to go to a fancy restaurant with her husband after work. Kira and Jeffrey met and liked each other a lot 3 years ago. They became a couple and got married. Kira and Jeffrey seemed to have a very happy marriage. They didn't fight in front of other people and kept their disagreements to themselves. Kira's friends at work were worried when she didn't come to work on Saturday, February 23rd. They were surprised because she was always on time and made sure others were too. They tried calling Kira but couldn't reach her, so they asked her husband, Jeffrey, if he knew where she was, but even he didn't know. Jeffrey said that Kira had left the house yesterday and hadn't come back yet. He wasn't too worried because sometimes Kira stays at a friend or family member's house without telling anyone, and she usually comes back after a day or 2. The weather was really bad with lots of snow falling, and this made people worried about her. Jeffrey thought that maybe she had some problems while she was traveling, like her car getting stuck or her phone running out of battery. Jeffrey told the police that his wife was missing and called Kira's family because he was worried. Her family was very surprised and very sad that she had suddenly disappeared. When Kira Steger went missing, the police started looking for her right away. They talked to her husband and looked around where she was last seen. They also went to visit his house to talk to him. Jeffrey said to the detectives that he and Kira had decided to be together on Thursday. They ate dinner, talked, played bowling, and then left the mall. Jeffrey said they went straight back to their house because Kira wanted to watch a movie. Jeffrey told the detectives that his wife left their house the next day, which was a Friday, at about 8:30 in the morning. She had to go to a special work event that she had to be at. She seemed to be acting like her usual self, and Jeffrey didn't think it was strange for her to sometimes be gone without him knowing where she was or who she was with. Jeffrey and Kira were having some problems in their relationship for a while. Jeffrey thought these problems were normal and not a big deal, like when families argue sometimes. When the detectives asked Jeffrey if Kira was with someone else, he said no. He talked to Kira and she said she didn't have another boyfriend. Jeffrey really loves and trusts his wife a lot. The people who are trying to figure out what happened shared all the information they found about Kira and her car with the police officers on duty. The detectives even went to the Mall of America themselves to make sure what Jeffrey said is true and maybe find some clues. The Mall of America is a really big shopping mall with lots of stores and fun things to do. It has rides and games, a big fish tank, and even a golf course. Because it's so big, there are a lot of cameras to keep it safe. The detectives wanted to find out when Kira had finished her job on February 21st. The video didn't show anything weird. Jeffrey told the truth about what happened. He met Kira after work, they had fun at the mall, and then they left in a car from the parking lot without fighting. Waiting without knowing what's going on is really hard, especially when you're worried about someone's safety. Kira's family got really tired of waiting and not hearing anything from her, so they decided to go to Bloomington to try and help find her. They made pictures of Kira and put them up on poles and gave them to people on the street. They wanted to get as much attention as they could and do whatever it took to find Kira because they love her so much. While the police were talking to Kira's neighbors to find out more about what happened, Kira's family was giving out papers to help find her. The police saw a camera on one neighbor's house that could show what happened at Kira and Jeffrey's home. They asked the neighbor if they could have a copy of the camera's video to help them figure out what happened. The investigators got some new information from a company that keeps track of people's cell phone stuff. They found out that Kira was dating a guy named Ryan Wendt, who was her boss at the store. They really liked each other a lot and talked to each other a bunch. The police found out that Ryan Wendt was not in the same place as Kira when she disappeared. But they found out that he had recently moved to Colorado, which made them think he might be hiding something because he and Kira were in a romantic relationship. They are not sure if his move was just a coincidence, or if he did it on purpose to hide something. The investigators will need to find out the real reason for his actions. Even though it was difficult, the detectives were able to talk to Ryan. He said he would go to Colorado to answer their questions. When they talked to him, he told them that he had talked to Kira while he was in South Dakota and they sent messages to each other. These messages were sent right before she disappeared. After looking at the times when the text messages were sent, the investigators figured out that Kira was talking to someone else while she was having dinner with her husband. The messages showed that Kira was starting to feel different and not as close to her husband, Jeffrey. The investigators looked at Ryan's phone information and the records of the money he spent with his credit card to see where he was. They saw that he was in a different state when Kira went missing. Because of this, they decided that Ryan didn't have anything to do with Kira disappearing and said he wasn't a suspect anymore. Kira was still sending messages to Ryan even after she came back home with her husband. But their conversation stopped at 11:44 p.m., and Kira hasn't used her phone since then. At the same time, some other people were getting ready to watch a video from a camera at Kira's neighbor's house. This camera could see a lot of the street, but it moved really quickly, so it was hard to see things clearly. Even though it was difficult, one person noticed something strange when the camera moved to the other side. On the TV, we saw Jeffrey and Kira's house for a little bit, but then the camera looked to the side. Jeffrey said that after they had dinner and went bowling, they went back home, watched a movie, and went to sleep. But the people who are trying to figure out what happened found out that Kira's car went backwards into their yard after 2 o'clock in the morning. The video wasn't very clear and the camera was moving a lot, so it was hard to see what was happening in the video. But eventually, the car drove away from their house. Jeffrey said that he drove the car at night because Kira wanted him to put gas in it for her upcoming drive to work, so he went to the gas station. Surprisingly, the boy's story turned out to be true because people really did see him at the gas station early in the morning. But the detectives found out that instead of going home, he went towards the highway for some reason that nobody knows. We don't know where he went after that because the neighbor's camera didn't see him coming back. But maybe he came back later when the camera was facing a different way. When the detectives looked at the camera footage more closely, they saw that Kira's car left at 9:21 a.m. Unfortunately, they couldn't tell who was driving the car. On February 25th, the police got a call about a strange car near the place where Kira worked. There were 2 parking lots with guard people. They saw a car that had been there for a really long time. They called a big truck to take the car away. The person who drove the big truck looked at the car and saw strange red marks on the back of it. They told the police about it. Kira's car, a white Chevy, was found. There were a few small spots of blood, which was worrying. Also, the people who were looking into the situation saw something small and dark in the snow next to the car. When they looked at it more closely, they found a rolled-up mat from the trunk with marks that looked like a dark color on the bottom. They used special tests to check the DNA and found out that the marks were from Kira Steger's blood. The people looking into Kira's disappearance sadly realized that she was most likely no longer alive. This really sad news surprised her family and friends, and they had a lot of questions that they didn't have answers to. They wondered how she died, if she felt any pain, and who could have been so angry at her to do such a terrible thing. The detectives were very sad and worried because Kira was missing, and they couldn't find her body. They were now trying really hard to find the person who left the car in the parking lot. In the morning, the car went away from the house and then a little later, It was seen on the mall's cameras. The car was found in a parking lot that didn't have cameras, but there was another camera nearby that showed the way to the car. The camera showed a man wearing a hooded sweatshirt coming into the parking lot after a white Chevrolet car. The detectives needed to figure out where the man was going. The person wearing a hood safely walked across the road and went to where taxis wait for passengers. They talked for a little bit with one of the drivers before getting into a car and driving away. The police were able to figure out which taxi company the parked cars in the shopping center parking lot belonged to. The car had special devices that can track where it went, and it showed that the hooded man stopped his ride near Kira and Jeffrey's house. He also paid for the ride with money before he got out of the car. The camera that saw Kira and Jeffrey's house also saw a taxi leave the neighborhood. After 2 minutes, a person wearing a hood appeared on the camera, but it was difficult to see their face because the video quality was not very good. However, the most noticeable thing was the white symbol on the person's hoodie. After watching a video, the investigators saw a person wearing a hood going into Kira and Jeffrey's house. Since Kira was missing, it seemed very likely that the person in the hood was Jeffrey. The police then got permission to search the house. At first, the house looked normal and not very exciting. But when investigators took a closer look, they found lots of dark red spots in the couple's bedroom. There were a few marks on the wall close to the bed and a lot of them on the bed. It was clear that someone had recently cleaned and organized the bedroom. When the investigators sprayed a special liquid called luminol on the carpet, they saw that it started to glow very brightly. Even though they couldn't see it before, they found out that there were many spots on the carpet that were made by blood. They followed these spots and found out that they were in the bedroom and also in other parts of the house. The police looked at the blood they found and found out it was from Kira. This made them think she might be dead. They also looked at Jeffrey's car, but didn't find any blood or signs of a fight. But they did find a receipt from a gas station that was given to Jeffrey just a little bit before Kira's car was left at the mall. Investigators went to the gas station because they found out that Jeffrey's card was used to buy something there. They looked at a video that showed Jeffrey putting gas in his car and then going inside the store to get money from the ATM. In the video, they saw Jeffrey's face and noticed that he was wearing a jacket with a logo that looked like the logo worn by the person in another video they saw before. A 39-year-old man named Jeffrey Trevino was arrested because the police found some things that make them think he might have done something wrong. They took him to a special room in the police station to ask him questions. When he got there, he called his lawyer for help, and the lawyer told him it's okay to not say anything. The police had enough evidence to say that he did something wrong, but the best evidence would be finding the person's body. Everyone was sure that the person was no longer alive. The police, with the help of the person's family and other helpers, looked for them for many months. Finally, when the snow started to go away in March, some helpers found a strange bag near the road by a lake. They told the police about it. There was a bag with things like a pillow, a shirt, and a bra that had blood on them. They found Kira's DNA on these things, so they thought she might have something to do with it. They looked in a frozen lake, but didn't find any body parts. They also had dogs that are really good at finding bodies, but they didn't find anything either. 2.5 months after Kira disappeared, the police got a phone call saying they found a body in the river. The body looked like Kira, and they checked her teeth to make sure it was her. She had hurt her head and hand. Because Kira's body was very old and decayed, the doctors couldn't figure out how she died exactly. The investigators tried to figure out what happened to Kira by looking at the clues they found. They thought that when Jeffrey came back home, he found out that Kira was talking to someone else through text messages. Kira didn't want to show her husband the messages on her phone, so he took it from her really hard and hurt her finger. When he saw the messages, he got really mad and did something really bad. He hurt Kira a lot and tried to hide what he did. He used her car to take her body to a gas station and then put it in a river. After going home in his car, he threw away a bag with Kira's things inside. The next day, he went to a gas station and took out money from a machine. He did this because he knew he would have to pay for a taxi ride after leaving Kira's car at the mall. He chose to use money for this. After getting rid of Kira's car, Jeffrey went back home and spent the rest of the day cleaning the house. Jeffrey's idea to trick people into thinking Kira left in her car and was safe didn't work because there were cameras watching everything. His lawyers said that he didn't plan to do it, but it happened when he got really mad after finding out his wife was not being faithful to him. Before the judge decided what punishment to give, Kira's family members talked about how they felt. Kira's sister, Carrie Ann, said the person who did the bad thing was very mean and shouldn't get any breaks. Kira's mom, Marcy, said the person didn't care about Kira at all, and it was like they threw her away like trash into a really dirty place. Even though Jeffrey Trevino was punished for what he did, the hurt he caused to the victim's family can never be fixed. His father-in-law said that no matter how long he stays in jail, it will never be enough to make up for what he did. Trevino will be in prison for 27.5 years and might be able to ask to leave early in 2031. That's all about the story of today, and since you're still here, don't forget to like and subscribe. This will help my channel to grow.